friends, it's Cindy Brumbaugh with CindyLeeBDesigns.com, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today I'd like to show you two different cards I made using a new bundle that's coming out September 5th, 2018 in the holiday catalog with Stampin' Up! And it's called the Peaceful Poinsettia Bundle. You'll find it on page 22, and it comes with this beautiful stamp set with the poinsettia with some foliage, some bold Christmas sentiments. I love big sentiments on cards. And you also get these wonderful detailed poinsettia thinlit dies. This image here that can be colored with your Stampin' Blends. You can do it with some of your blender pens or watercoloring, and it's die cut with this die here. And also this holly berry image here has a die cut that cuts it out as well. Then there's some other extraneous dies that are something that Stampin' Up's been doing, adding to their die sets that don't necessarily cut out an image but have other uses. And one of these that you'll find in here is the actual poinsettia. You also find these corner dies that will cut out into the paper so that you can see through the paper. And then there's also this really neat holly leaves with berries on it. And then the one we're going to be using is this really cool corner die. So let's take a look at our cards to see what we're going to be doing here. I used a thick Whisper White card base, and then I used Real Red and Classic Garden Green, classic Christmas colors. So we started out with a card base, a thick Whisper White, and it is 5.5 by 8.5, and it's scored at 4.25, and then that'll end up giving us a landscape A2 sized card to fit into our A2 sized envelopes. So as you can see on this card, the green is peeking through the red. If you look on page 23 of your catalog, you'll notice a card that is shaded spruce and it's tone on tone. However, I really like the idea of that, but I didn't see the red poinsettia. So I've never seen a green one. I've seen pink ones, I've seen white ones, but never a green one. So I wanted to make sure that my poinsettia was red. And so what I did was I took and put garden green as a border underneath the Real Red. So what we'll do is we'll take this Real Red here, and this Real Red is 3 3/4 by 5, and then just another 1/8 inch around the whole Real Red is garden green, and it's 4 by 5.25, and then that fits onto your card base, which is 5.5 by 4.25. But don't worry about writing down any of these measurements, because I'll have the measurements and the colors and the products, embellishments, anything I do on my video, I'll have it for that blog post for that card. So what I did is I started out here with my red card base, my red panel here, and like I said, 3 3/4 by 5. So then I wanted to take and die cut out those leaves here so that I could see the green peeking through. So you'll be able to just fit it on there. If it's on there just tightly, put the same amount of border, a little thin, maybe a 1/16 of an inch here on the lower left corner. And after you cut that out, you're going to end up with the magic of television, of video, you're going to end up with these die cuts cut out of here. And then I just layered the garden green underneath it, and then that gave me the green leaves that I wanted on the card. So whenever you go to adhere the red onto the green, just make sure you have your snail or your adhesive a little bit close into these pieces, because you want it to have a nice tight fitting so that you can see the green and it's not flopping around there. So you have the garden green, and then you have the Real Red. Now the next thing we want to do is put this poinsettia on. Now the neat thing about this is you need a little bit of a tutorial here. The die, you think that you cut this out and it's just going to be this, but it actually is not. This cuts into the paper, but it doesn't cut this off of the paper. So what you have to do with that is you have to put the die around the detailed die. And when you put that die around the detailed die, this comes out because all these pieces pop out. And right in this little edge right around the poinsettia is what actually die cuts out whole image there, the whole, not image, but the whole die cut. So I want to show you two different ways I did this. This one, I just popped the poinsettia right off of the card. I really liked this delicate see-through, just had such a nice effect on the card. But I also wanted to put the poinsettia very tight on the card, and it almost looks like it's embossed, but even prettier because it's actually layered on top of it. So I want to show you how I did that. So what I did is I took a piece of real red, and it was 3 by 3.5, and that just happened to be how this fits on here. And what I did is I used our adhesive sheets. So you'll just cut one that matches exactly to your dimensions of whatever you're doing, and then I just take off this protective covering. So you take off the part that says Sizzix on it, and then this is sticky, so don't touch it. So you're going to put this, layer it right onto your real red. So you'll see the red is here, and this is not sticky. You can always save this piece because sometimes you'll do crafts that you need to like stick it down in there, so you can keep that because it's non-stick. So you have this on here. Now you're going to want to cut this out of here. Now you want to make sure that you put the die on the cardstock side. So when you go to run this through the Big Shot, have it on this side, because when you run it through, you want to peel off the backing. And when you peel off the backing, the adhesive's there. If you do it the opposite way, it doesn't work. So just always remember, you're doing it the same way you would always die cut. You would just put it right onto your cardstock. So you run this through the Big Shot, and then you pop out all the little pieces, and then you're left with the flower. Now, since I know you can see how this is adhered here with the dimensional underneath there, I'm going to show you how to do this. So now you can see, because of that adhesive sheet that I put on the back of this red, hey, don't forget, this piece here is really valuable real estate here. So you can come back here, you can punch out flowers, you can punch out berries, whatever you need to, like, to stick the, maybe you want to die cut some of these red berries from this holly thing, and they'll have adhesive on the back, and then you can just pop them right in here. So what you're going to do is you're going to peel off this adhesive, this protective backing off of this side, because remember, this adhesive backing was two-sided. And then see, you have got adhesive over that entire image, like it's the entire way around. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to put that onto the card. These three, here, I'll do it with the one that doesn't have adhesive. These three here fit down into this portion. So you'll see if you put it the opposite, like if you're popping it off the card, it really won't matter. But when you're putting it onto the card, you have to get it right. So you would see where these 2 points have a little point right in between them. That's the part that's going to go down in that edge. So as you can see, this is my sticky part. And it's kind of hard to see because they both kind of look the same now, but you have adhesive around this whole part of there. So you're going to put that poinsettia into that hole, and it is not going to move now. It just is perfectly adhered to the card. I hope you can see that in a video, just how pretty that is. And it, like I said, you didn't have to dab any glue on there. And so that is how I did that. And then I just wanted to put some gold into here. So I used the gold faceted gems. And so what I did was I just chose to use one of the bigger ones here. Just fits in there really nicely. And then that just gives you that real poinsettia detail there with the, usually has the yellow in the middle of it. And so on this card, I used the floral frames die from the foliage frames, the foliage frame framelits dies. And that is paired with the floral frames stamp set in the annual catalog. So I just used this and I stamped the Christmas wishes, the big image that was in the stamp set there, and I just die cut it in white. On this one, I used a stitched shapes oval, and I like that as well, but I thought I would change it up since we were going to do one more card. And what I did on this one is I just stamped in real red Christmas wishes on one of the layering oval dies, and then I took, well, first thing I was going to do was I was going to put a scallop oval behind it, and I think that looks pretty. But then I thought, oh wait, will this fit into here and give it even a little more fanciness? And it does. So what we're going to do is we are going to put some adhesive on the back of our sentiment, and then we're going to adhere it to this foliage frame. And this oval fits in here lovely. It made me realize I can put even smaller ovals, but this one does fit in there just wonderfully. Of course, I want to get this so that I have the equal amount on the top and bottom. Sometimes you don't figure out how your card looks until you take a photo of it, or you come back and look at it, it's sitting on your shelf and you're like, that's crooked. So there we go. Now I could put this on here flat, but I think because of the poinsettia on this card being flat, I want to pop this one up. So I'm just going to use some of my leftover dimensionals that are here at on my table here. Love to use up those little guys. Whoop. There you go, buddy. Into the garbage. Well, the garbage, I mean my desk. Maybe the floor. Who knows? So we can just pop up this sentiment on the front of the card. Maybe a little bit too far. Maybe I'll hold it up here. It's so hard to see whenever I don't want you to get a clear shot of the top of my head. So there we go. So I think here with the raised up portion with the dimensionals looks really nice because this is flat. But on this card, because I put a dimensional, I put a actual mini dimensional under here, because on this one, I used the smaller, the medium-sized one here. So this is the large one and this is a medium one. You can get a lot more cards made if you use two different sizes of these gold faceted gems, because there's a lot of gold faceted gems in there. But if you use the medium-sized one, it would be good to use the mini dimensionals. So as you can see on this card, I had a flat sentiment because this was raised up. So you had the dimension there, you could go flat here. But on this card, because this was flat, I raised this up, and on this one, the same thing. It was flat, so I raised it up. So there you go, 3 different cards with 3 different sentiments. One has the raised, one is flat. These are definitely a die you want to use your thin plate adapter with, because it's a detailed die, and that thin plate adapter works like cutting these things just like butter. And so if you use your Sizzix adhesive sheets, it makes all the adhesive on the back just pop right onto this card so easily. If not, you could just take some Tombow, make a little pool of Tombow, and do some little dots here and there. But I really, really liked using my adhesive sheets on this. So if you have any questions about this card, you can always email me at cindyleeb@gmail.com. Send me a text, give me a call at 724-323-2296. And everything you need to know to make this card, you'll find on my blog, cindyleebdesigns.com. Thanks for buzzing by, friends.